Vasileios and his band of raiders rest near a small fire on the east bank of the Euphrates River, east of Emar and west of Tutol. Cheops sits motionless, head limp, resting forward, snoring quietly. Stavros and Vasileios eat fruit and cheese. Water boils in a bronze pot, resting on stones over a fire. A dozen or so men lay sleeping on the ground near the fire. Some snore, others whisper quietly. Hand carts loaded with sacks, chests, and ceramic vessels are parked nearby. Stavros turns to Vasileios and says, "It was mighty Greek of those hatty scum to give us a ride across the river and pay us to leave. Too bad we couldn't get more out of them. They would have done anything to get us out of there." Vasileios says, "Too late to worry about it." "I know, but we didn't press the matter hard enough before we butchered them." "Well, if it's still bothering you, we can ask one of them right now." Vasileios picks up a severed hatty head and faces it towards Stavros. Vasileios says to the head, "You weren't holding out on us, were you?" "If you were, there'd be serious consequences. I don't know what we'd do." Vasileios manipulates the head's lips and jaw. The head says, "Nope, you got everything. Food, gold, women." Vasileios says, "See, even our hatty buddy doesn't think it's worth fretting over." The head says, "That's right. No point in looking a blind horse in the ass." Stavros says, "A blind horse in the ass? What's that supposed to mean?" "There's no point in further inspection of something already known to be worthless. Come on, I'm trying to start a catchphrase, one that will last for generations to come. Give a little head something to feel good about." Stavros says, "Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. I doubt it will last until tomorrow." Stavros stares at the fire. And then he says, "Do you think the gods will punish us? All that killing? That was a whole lot of killing." Vasileios says, "I don't know how they can punish us more than they already have. Starvation in Mycenae, the rich hoarding grain, the poor burning the rich and stealing all the grain. War in Troy, how long has it been? 5, 6 years? We didn't do anything to the Hittites that we didn't do dozens of times in the villages near Troy." And the head says, "Take it from someone who has been to the underworld. Ereshkigal likes the company. And if the gods didn't approve, they would not have let it happen." Stavros says, "In Troy, we were acting on behalf of the state. Ugarit and the rest, we were just getting our rocks off, killing and raping every day." Vasileios says, "I'm not worried about it." But he shivers. "We did it to survive. Besides, you heard the talking head." Stavros says, "One does not rape to survive." The head interjects, "Maybe not in the literal sense, but think of it in the metaphysical sense. Look around. Things are not normal. In normal times, you have the chance to achieve immortality through offspring born from your wives. That window of opportunity no longer exists. How do you think your blood will survive otherwise? Jerking off? Wishful thinking? That won't do it. Gods know there are an awful lot of Trojans and Hittites that would love to parade your head on a spike. You might get killed tomorrow. To live on, you need to plant your seed any way possible, and as soon as possible." Stavros says, "What do you know? You're just a stupid talking head." Vasileios shivers again. It gets cold that night in the desert. Stavros says, "Do you think anybody is coming after us?" Vasileios says, "No force of any substance came after us in Ugarit. Just some crazy undisciplined raiders. The whole Hatti army is north fighting with the Trojans against the Greeks. I doubt anybody is going to chase us across the river. They are just glad we were gone." I was surprised how easy it was to sack and loot Ugarit, Stavros says. After 6 years of banging our heads on the walls of Troy, getting our asses handed to us, sacking Ugarit felt like slamming a baby's head against the wall. It was easy, but I feel no sense of accomplishment, only guilt. Vasileus, let's get that out of your head. The world has gone savage, and if you want to survive, you have to get savage right along with it. Stavros says, there must have been a dozen bands ransacking Ugarit. Where did they all come from? Vasileus answers, you know where we came from, escaping the barbaric cruelty of our sovereign overlords. Stavros, that sounds kinda corny. The head says, the cruel need a scapegoat to blame for their actions. It's never their fault. Stavros says, yeah, never our fault. Cheops, sleep talks, not my fault, not my fault, not my fault. Vasileus says, what it boils down to is people's greatest instinct, the survival of the self, family, and community. In that order. If the homeland is dying on the vine, people flee. If they survive cruelty, they become cruel. Survival becomes the only thing. Right or wrong is defined by what it takes to survive, and it becomes one's only master. That explains why, but not who. Well, my guess is this other Achaeans, Minoans, Philistines, displaced Hittites, Latins, maybe even Cimmerians from the great northern steppes. They come from wherever starvation and chaos is rampant. Stavros says, I've been following you for a few weeks, but you never did tell me who you really are, your backstory. Well, I'm Vasileus, son of Vasileus, grandson of Vasileus. My family owns ships, many of which were used to transport troops to Anatolia. I spent my youth studying engineering, philosophy, and the art of war. The war went on for a year. The first wave of Greece got slaughtered beneath the walls of Troy. I volunteered confident that I would be the one to make a difference. It did not turn out that way. I was soon burdened with a commission based on my performance and knowledge of the art of war. I led troops against that wall over and over again. Brains and guts on the stone, on the ground, in my hair, on my face, in my mouth. No human is supposed to see that. It was not like a sanitary sacrifice to the gods. Cheops says, sleep talks, brains and guts. Vasileus says, it's a miracle I survived. Stavros says, it's a miracle any of us survived. My family got wiped out by peasants who followed a false prophet, a populist who led them all to hell. After an attack killed all my men, I had nothing left to fight for. With no one alive to witness, I just left, headed south. No one noticed but the dead. After a few days, I ran into a band of other deserters. A mix of Trojan, Mycenaean, Philistine, Cimmerian, Minoan warrior deserters. We only had one thing in common, hatred for those who started the war. They needed leadership. I seized the role. The men stare into the fire. Cheops, sleep talks, brains and guts. Not my fault. Stavros says, I never fully understand why all the Greek city-states were able to put aside their differences, unite, and attack Troy. What do you think? Vasileus answers, there are a couple of theories. One theory is that a Spartan princess ran off with a Trojan prince, and the Spartan king was able to convince the entire Greek peninsula to unite and go to war to get her back. That sounds like bullshit to me. Yeah, it's bullshit. There's little doubt Trojans were suffering greatly. With the climate cooling, causing major crop failures, and all the damn earthquakes, the Trojans felt they needed to take full control of the trade to the Bosphorus Strait. Tin, grain, cattle, you name it, to gain competitive advantage in an effort to save their people from starvation. And the Mycenaeans would have none of that. Cheops sleep talks. Not my fault. When goods don't cross borders, Vasileus says, armies will. Stavros was impressed. Profound. I bet rulers will make that their case for war until the end of time. Vasileus says, yeah, they always have, and they always will. I should press it in clay and kill and fire it so nobody else steals it. Cheops awakes, sits upright, and nudges Vasileos with his elbow. And he says, "Hey, Vasileos." Vasileos says, "What? Do you have any papyrus?" Vasileos grins. "I sure do." Vasileos hands Cheops a sheet of papyrus. Cheops takes the sheet, carefully tears off a square, takes some herb from a pouch, and rolls it into the papyrus. He lights it and inhales, and says, "Here, maybe I can sleep now. The nightmares have been horrendous." He passes it to Vasileos. Vasileos takes a pull and leans back, enjoying the euphoria. Just what I needed to mellow my harsh. OJ and Hornhead eagerly await their turn. Hornhead says, "That smells damn good." He said, Vasileos says to Stavros, "Want to hit this?" Stavros says, "No thanks. It makes me feel like somebody's in the bushes, watching."